Hello, this is the Blast Report podcast on all things blasting. My name is Evan Tebow with New Wave Consulting, and I want to thank all the drill and blast teams along with those supporting them who are out there on the pattern. The production team at Blast Think and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the Blast Report podcast. This episode of the Blast Report podcast is brought to you by Dyno Nobel. For over 150 years, Dyno Nobel has been a global leader in the commercial explosives industry. With origins dating back to Alfred Nobel himself, Dyno Nobel provides historic leadership in explosives, serving the mining, quarrying, civil, and construction industries. As one of the largest players in the industrial explosives business, Dyno Nobel's vital role in helping customers is highlighted across the world. From safety initiatives, development in bulk explosive technology, and meeting KPIs, Dyno Nobel understands the needs of their customers today and into the future. It's their full line of products and services that challenges the status quo and delivers on their promises. So when you need groundbreaking performance, you trust Dyno Nobel. When you switched, what brought you back to Dyno? You spent 3 years doing something else. Did you want to move home, or somebody said, "Hey, I used to work with you. Let's go. Here's an offer you can't refuse," or something like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I had just, you keep in touch with your old friends and colleagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I call them all the time or anything, but at a show or whatever, you stop by and you say hello to folks, and that's really what had happened. Is we were just at a show, and I just had was roaming around like we all do at shows to say hello to people and chat, and Dyno Nobel was just looking to add kind of a person within their new Titan emulsion technology team to try to introduce technology for Titan emulsion into coal market and into some of our markets, and they needed another resource to do that. They had a couple of folks that were already doing. They just needed another resource, and they asked if I'd be interested in coming back and taking on one of those roles for those customer segments. And I thought about it, and we kind of just stayed in touch and decided it was the right thing to do. I enjoyed the blasting part, enjoyed the emulsion aspect of it, enjoyed the new technology. I didn't have to relocate. I was already kind of in that Salt Lake City area. We didn't relocate or anything like that. Cade Equipment was in the process of being sold to Atlas Copco. They were a distributor of Atlas Copco, and Atlas Copco was going to purchase them, and then eventually it turned into Epiroc, which it is today. Great company. But I just decided, this might be the right opportunity for me to kind of make a switch back to Dyno Nobel. So there were some changes that were happening with the drilling side of it, and there were some changes that were happening in the Dyno Nobel side. And so no, it wasn't an offer I couldn't refuse, the kind of thing. I know some people go down that path. It was more of an interest and a desire to be a part of growing a technology within our explosive industry that I thought was pretty exciting.
And you're seeing a transition from your company being purchased by another company.
Yeah,
that's always a wary situation. So it's understandable there. What was the technology with the Titan product? Was it gassing was already around? Was it that you were trying to introduce a certain thing with the emulsion, or was it you're trying to break into a new industry? What was it that they were working on with the Titan product at the time that they said they wanted more people for?
It was that's good thought and good question. When I was in the Florida Southeast market, we had introduced the Titan XL1000. All that is it's a homogenized, chemically sensitized emulsion, 100% emulsion, repump truck. We had introduced that into the Columbia, South Carolina market, the Augusta, Georgia market, and we had some really good success. Brought it down into Florida, into Fort Myers, Brooksville, and had good success down there. So that part of it, I had been kind of on the ground floor when we introduced that technology earlier in my career. The mining industry sometimes can be, I'd maybe called fast followers, not necessarily they're not the ones to always decide to be first. And so the coal market was one aspect. We thought that 100% chemically sensitized, homogenized emulsion was of value, right? And when we were in the Southeast market, in that Florida rock, there's, kind of a baby limestone, I call it. So it's hard, medium, you got some soft, you've got some different layers within that formation. And we knew that we could perform and get better blast results if we had an opportunity to modify the explosive density within different layers of the rock, right? And we had just gotten started on some of that, and that really led to our differential energy work back in the day. And so we knew there was some value to introduce that into other industry segments. So that's really what was appealing to me, was to help introduce it, whether that was build it in iron ore or in gold or in coal, just to introduce it into other aspects of our business.
So was this when, sorry if this is dating you or anything like that, or totally wrong time frame, I don't know, but was this kind of when people started to introduce the gassing agent at the bottom of the hose in the static mixer?
Yeah.
And knowing where the depth of this new rock would be, then you would change the rate of the APX or at the bottom of the hose, so you actually got the transition in the hole? Or how did that work? Or were you just having a change in density as you retracted the hose?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a change. The end of hose gassing, we call it. That technology all kind of came together. At first, we didn't have that. We were just
okay. Good. So I didn't date you on
first. We
that.
didn't have that. We just were trying to change it within it. So you're trying to predict how much product you've got to pump through the hose.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can make a change there. So there was a bit of that, and really that kind of came out. If we can do this at the end of the hose, we're going to have a lot more control and a lot better results, right? And be more accurate, because if you only need to load, of an 80-foot hole, if you only need a 5 or a 7-foot segment, well, that's hard to kind of judge, right? So we knew we had to develop a hose technology that would allow us to make the change on the fly as the product was being pumped, that was more accurate, that would provide you, okay, we're going to load, 5 of this 7 feet or whatever, and it's going to be where it needs to be instead of, off 10 feet or whatever that might be. And so we initially came up with, thought 4 segments was the right solution for that, just on the Florida market, that, if we could do that 4 times within a hole, we're probably going to get better results. And it's all about the customer too. You got to have a driver and someone that wants to change on the customer level. Back in the day, there was Rinker Materials back in that Southeast market, and there was one quarry manager named Alan, and he was all about let's give it a try. Let's see if we can get us some better results, right? Maybe it saves me some money in the crushing or the mining process of it. So,
Mm-hmm.
There's that continuous mindset that you've got to find within a customer's organization that's willing to make a change, right? Because we're not necessarily, if it's something new, you hope it works, but it may not work, and it may not work the first time. And so, having someone that will be patient and help you analyze the results honestly is very key to developing new technology. Yeah.
Very true. I had a failure on a project with something, and my contact didn't really call me back for a long time, and I knew he was a big baseball fan, so I said, "You're gonna let me, strike out 3 times, or you're just gonna let me swing once?" And He finally responded. It's
Right.
like, "All right, we'll come back." Kind of gave him the mindset of it's not going to work every time, but when we're trying new technology, there's a lot of steps to look at. So when it came down to the Titan 1000 and using chemically sensitized product, in the Florida market, you're always in a warm temperature. Were you part of someone who was also bringing this to colder temperatures, or was that somebody else's role within the company introducing that into, let's say, the Canadian market, where the gassing agent doesn't work the same in that temperature, right? Or was that someone else, or
No, there was other folks on the team. Dave Hunsaker, he's retired now, but he was definitely a part of that whole group. Jeff Avert, he recently retired. So, and then we have our engineering folks. There's a lot of folks. So there were a lot of folks that introduced it into different parts of North America. I just happened to be in that Southeast market when we were first, finding a need and getting things tested out, And so we knew we could see that there was value in a niche market. And then you always want to ask yourself, well, if it's value here, could it be value somewhere else, right? So yeah, there was a team. It wasn't definitely wasn't a one-man show. There's a lot of folks on the engineering side that help with that, develop cold temperature trucks, first of all, the emulsion storage, the handling, those kind of things. And it wasn't all me by any means. And there's still a lot of good folks that are helping to do that. But the goal eventually was, the goal wasn't necessarily for, obviously for Dyno Nobel to grow their business, but, just as the explosive industry and the mining industry has changed, we really thought that, this would be a future technology that would provide value to many customers, maybe not change the whole market. Ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, it does a great job in a lot of markets, right?
Dry holes, soft rocks.
Right. But
hard to beat.
People even talk about dynamites. Well, you think about dynamites, there's an application. If you're shooting a downtown Nashville or something like that, close proximity, you want to know exactly how many pounds you're putting in the hole. You can cut a stick in half. So there's value in all those products. So it's not a replace everything with this. There's finding those markets and those customers that see the value in the product that you're trying to deliver.
What was one of the big challenge? So at that moment, did you stick to bulk as your career? At that point, you became kind of a product specialist and you decided this is how I want it, like not on purpose, not like we were talking earlier, but did it come that way? And have you kind of continued your career into that bulk emulsion aspect?
Yeah, when I came back to Dyno Nobel, it was simply about bulk emulsion and working with customers that wanted to give that a try and really see if there was value that 100% emulsion could provide. And so yes, at that time they called it a bulk emulsion product manager or technology manager, whatever you want to call that.
What would you say would be the biggest struggles you had? The biggest, or maybe a few that you would say that you were in your learning process of dealing with bulk 100% emulsion?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is that, mines have been doing it, they've maybe been using a heavy anvil blend as an example for a lot of years and it gets good results, right? There's nothing the matter with that. There's no issues there. And so when you're trying to just go to something like a bulk emulsion, there's a little bit more cost involved because there's more cost in the technology of the equipment, right? And so you've got to, help prove out that value that justifies if there's added cost, right? I think that's the biggest challenge, is finding the folks in a mining organization or in a mine that are willing to give you multiple, opportunities. Because you and I are smart, but walking in and doing it right the first time, we're not that good. Let's be honest, right? It's going to take a little bit of learning. And so that's probably the biggest challenge, is that kind of that resistance to change. Yeah.
And what about on the product side of it? Was there a product struggle that you had, crystallization or nitrate leaching or adding a catalyst to your to the gassing agent, or was there a certain subject there that you can kind of speak on that you can look back and say, this was one of our big challenges that we overcame over the years?
I think one of the, you had mentioned it, but one of the big benefits of a homogenized product is the reduction in residual nitrates in the blasted material, right? So little cracks and fissures and things like that, where you've got emulsion or ammonium nitrate, prill or whatever that is the residual within the hole that stays there. And then, it leaches out of the muck pile and it ends up, in their sump pump, and they've got to treat that. So there were some customers, we worked with some hard rock customers in Montana that were struggling with nitrate recovery or processing nitrates in their water discharge. And that was one of the big benefits that we had seen, and we knew there was some value there. And it continues to be value. I chat with customers. We're working on a project right now. They're doing the same thing, trying to reduce the nitrates that are in their discharge water, right? And so, that's one of the benefits. I mean, obviously fragmentation, what it looks like in the crusher, is it an improvement in the crusher? Or there's some of that. But, those, and then the other one is the reduction of potential post-blast fumes.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's 100% reduction, but I would definitely say that the chances of getting post-blast fumes, if things are loaded right and done right, and that blast is initiated in a reasonable amount of time, your odds of having post-blast fumes, and now that's been discussed over the years and by a lot of folks and been tried to solved by a lot of different applications, is definitely a benefit that we've seen with the tight emulsion technology, for sure.
Wonderful. Yeah, not that we're trying to pump.
No,
not that
absolutely.
we're obviously.
I don't want it to be a sales pitch.
No, I know. Yeah, I spent a lot of my early years working with a lot of bulk emulsions and having some struggles with overgassing on a cold day when the cup sample didn't see the gassing.
Yeah.
So the truck operator was given the authority to increase the gassing agent, but that was only like a small cup sample that was exposed to the elements. So, we really shouldn't have given the operator the authority to change that mix, because then they were overgassing it, and we came back the next day and you would see the cuttings slumped down, a few meters or something like that. So that's kind of why I asked that question on that subject, and lots of headaches when it came to that. Or
no, I've had to put a emulsion cup in a warm spot, a cab on a truck or a compartment on the bulk truck or whatever, right? Because if you just left it out in the ambient temperature when it was super cold, things weren't happening the way you thought they should be happening.
And it's amazing what these manufacturers of these bulk trucks are doing, heated sample area, so that you can keep that heated in there for some time, and having heated all the different areas to keep certain places warm, and providing an extra tank for your catalyst, and where that mixes, seeing the static mixer, saying, how come we haven't been doing this the whole time?
Right.
Clearly you think to yourself, like, why didn't I think of this?
No, absolutely right. But I guess that kind of brings up the point. I mean, our industry, that's the beauty of our industry, right? Is so many people can be supportive of technology and projects, right? And, even when you go to a mining operation, maybe a consultant can come in and offer some solutions, right? But it's very challenging for just one person to be the problem solver at an operation.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually multiple people that kind of come together to make a continuous improvement project happen, for sure.
My coworker Gonzalo, he was always complaining that everyone was taking the samples in a red Solo cup.
Oh yeah.
And that the cup would expand, and it wasn't, and the math. So he went and got these plastic beer mugs, the German style beer mugs,
right.
And he brought all those so that you could get exactly the amount that you needed, and it wouldn't expand, and you could really measure the difference. And that's a great idea, so we bought a big box of them. The next day there weren't any left.
They were all gone.
They were all gone. All the blasters, the drillers, everyone wanted a beer mug with a company logo on it. I thought it was pretty funny. So even little stuff like that was interesting for in the bulk application. What would be one of your the goals that you set for yourself? Could be in your career, but since we're talking about bulk, is there a specific thing that you kind of really work towards these last few years of your career, or saying, I really wanted to implement 100% emulsion in coal, and we did do that, or something like that?
I'll go back just a little bit further in my career. I was never a huge reader. I don't know, I just didn't enjoy sitting down and reading a book, but as I entered my career path and chatting with more senior folks, and asking them that question, like, how can I be more knowledgeable? I get it. Experience comes from just simply being out there and being engaged and seeing different things. But, are there books that I could read, right? Or some things that you could study. The ISCE, they used to have their library, and I'd always go through there and I'd try to find a book that was of interest, tons of great books that people have written. And so that one of my goals was at least get a book at the ISCE convention, right? And then make it a goal not to just put it on the shelf, but to actually read it. So sometimes I'd be traveling on an airplane and I've got, an explosives book open on my little table or whatever, and I'm got some engineering paper, I'm taking some notes, and if you can imagine, the person sitting next to you is wondering what the heck is going on. So I would try to limit my, conversation. I didn't want to just simply say we're in the explosives industry. I call it the E word. You just simply say you're in the chemical or the mining industry. Or energetics, whatever you want to call it. But the goal was, to learn from others, right? I don't even want to name all the folks that have written books, but whether it's one of your professors at college or, someone from another part of the world, right? And learn I have to take notes when I read. I can read a page and read a chapter, but if I write it down, I organize it on a piece of paper, then I've got a chance to refer to that, and my memory retention's better. So that was the reason for the notes aspect of it. And so, just trying to learn that way, reading, going to different seminars. Eventually, then you start presenting at seminars. Someone asks you to present. Not very good the first few times. I had a great mentor named Brent Alexander. He could present very well. He could also introduce you that you were the smartest person in the room. He was very good about that. But most importantly, he was very good at acknowledging when giving you just a small section to present, right? And building your confidence up. Okay, I got through those 10 slides. I talked about stemming. Whew, it was good. And then the next time you were together, you maybe talked about delay timing or something like that. And if I hesitated or stumbled, he would just add to where I left off so I could compose myself and get going again, right? And we all kind of need that. It's a confidence builder. I wasn't gifted with being able to get up in front of people and present. And so over time then I just started doing different classes, whether that was for MSHA or at ISCE or here at the Black Hills, Best of the West or whatever that is. And being able to share not only my experiences, some of the bad, I like to share the good, bad, the ugly. Mm-hmm. I goofed up sometimes. So let's share that so that someone else understands that, we make mistakes, and the best thing to do is before we make those mistakes, let's make a phone call to someone that we have in the industry and maybe do a double check to make sure we're going down the right path. And I think those are two things, just simply reading and trying to gain some knowledge. And then also just, sharing that in the form of presentations and getting up in front so that you can help the folks that are there develop their skills as well.
One of my last questions I asked is, what is some advice you might have for our listeners, whether they're young or old? Is that kind of the same answer, or do you have another piece that you would like to kind of leave our listeners with on a piece of advice? I
think that there's one thing they really, build your network of contacts, right? And it may not just be within your company. I have no problem calling someone from outside of Dyno Nobel and asking them if they've done that, or maybe they're a consultant or doing something different, right? And getting some advice there. Obviously, you'd like to try to do that before you're standing on the bench and all the drills and everyone's staring at you, right? You want to try to do some of that. So I think the biggest piece of advice is, build positive network contacts, right? Engage with folks, make friends, and then learn. Go to events, engage, participate, continue your learning path, read, and you'll have a positive career if that's where you choose to go. I mean, I'm 55 and I still enjoy reading. I still enjoy presenting. I still enjoy engaging and talking with people. And I think if folks can keep that in mind, just with a smile and a positive attitude, they'll have a good career in the drilling and the blasting industry.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Baron. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that I got another opportunity to do this interview, and it's been a good time. So thank you,
Evan. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Blast Report podcast. I want to thank the team at Blast Think for producing this show, and please follow along for more episodes in the future, and share this podcast with your colleagues so we can continue to honor our industry and the people in it. Be safe and have a blast.